So warm greetings from Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City, and welcome to this meditation, and welcome into this community of people all over the country, the world, the continent, coming together to meditate now, and also some people do it later in the day, and hello to them as well. So when we do mindfulness practice, sooner or later, and ideally it's sooner, we would come to have a deep appreciation of our capacity for being aware, our capacity for mindfulness, for clear recognition, for observing what's happening, for sensing and feeling what's happening as it's happening. There's many different angles or perspectives to this, there's different sides of this wonderful jewel, this diamond of awareness. And different times, different ones are emphasized. But this jewel, appreciating this tremendously valuable thing that is so easily overlooked, because the mind is using awareness to focus, to be absorbed in something else, to obsess, or to be. Mindfulness is the passive, awareness is the passive vehicle with which we then get involved in our thoughts, or what I call the world of aboutness. We're thinking about something, about the future, the past, about people in our lives, about events, about fantasy. And we can get so involved in those thoughts, those ideas, those concerns, maybe because we have strong desire or fear or aversion to it, or whatever reason there might be. And we're not really aware that we're aware. We might know that we're thinking about something, but everything is kind of being channeled into that world of aboutness. In mindfulness practice, we're stepping away from the world of aboutness, not to reject it, but to know it so clearly that, oh, now I'm thinking about something, now I'm feeling something, now I'm sensing something, so clearly that we become aware of the fact that we are aware. We become aware of the event of being mindful. So we hear a sound, and rather than immediately going off and thinking, what is that sound, and what should I do, and what do I have to fix here to not have the sound, the first place we go is we simply know the sound. Oh, it's listening, hearing, sound. But we do it in such a way that the awareness of sound, the knowing of it, the mindfulness of it, becomes the jewel, stands out, becomes really the main center of our experience. And so we have this jewel, this treasure. It's a phenomenally powerful, effective, enlightening, freeing, to begin to appreciate our simple capacity to awareness when we really taste it or feel it or know it. It's kind of like being distracted and being given clear, clean, refreshing mountain water from a spring. And we don't taste it, we don't feel it. We just talk away and just gulp down the water. Or to really take it in and feel, oh, this is pure water. This is, really feels refreshing and good, and really feel the tasting of it. So the knowing of it. So, and the avenue to doing that, the means to doing that, an important part of it is to be relaxed, not trying too hard. It's almost as if we can be upright, and the more relaxed we can be, then awareness is the natural center of our experience. Awareness just begins to stand out and highlight this treasure of ours. So assuming a meditative posture that will allow you to both maintain a postural physical alertness of some kind and to relax your body. And gently closing your eyes. And without doing anything special around breathing, become attuned to the experience of exhaling. Become aware, know what it feels like for you to, just as you are, to exhale. And then become aware of different places in your body where there might be tension. And as you exhale, ease up, soften, relax the tension in the shoulders, in the belly, maybe the muscles along the sides of the spine. Maybe in your fingers and hand. And as you inhale, inhale into the very place that you've relaxed, as if that place can receive the inhale, as if the inhale prepares for a further relaxation on the exhale. And if you're thinking about things, you're in the world of aboutness, about what you're thinking. And we want to be in the world of awareness, of presence. A kind of awareness and mindfulness that's closely related to a silent way of being that allows you to sense and feel more deeply your experience. Or a way of knowing, recognizing what's really happening here in the present moment as you breathe. As you relax, the awareness can maybe be more receptive, or maybe even receptive is saying too much work. Awareness just is. And in its very isness, it registers, it experiences, it knows. And the diamond of awareness, allow it to stand out a little bit in mindfulness of breathing. Simple awareness of breathing, where breathing isn't the main point of what you're doing. Breathing is the means by which awareness, mindfulness, is revealed, is known, is experienced. Mind's capacity to know, to be aware. To highlight awareness, you might use a very simple mental note that recognizes whatever it is you're aware of. Not that the note is that important in naming the experience. It's more that the note, in the wake of the note, you're more aware of being aware. Recognizing an in-breath with the word in, and then in the wake of saying that, being more there to recognize, to experience the in-breath, out for the out-breath. Appreciating simple. And as we come to the end of this sitting, to take a few moments to appreciate your capacity to be aware, present moment awareness, not thinking about awareness to appreciate it, but knowing it as you're aware now, not trying too hard to know awareness, kind of know it from the edges or know it from behind or underneath. Know it with a kind of peripheral awareness of the mind. Appreciating its simplicity, that way in which awareness can be simple. Just know. And in the same way, love can be simple. Goodwill, friendliness, compassion can be quite simple. Also not being caught in the world of aboutness, thinking about things, but allowing the world to register in the heart. In the simplicity of the heart, the simple response of love, of compassion, goodwill. And allowing it to be simple without needing to figure out anything or act on anything. Just love, just goodwill, kindness. And perhaps there's a way in which the following words resonate with the heart, especially if you don't try to engage the meaning of the words completely, like how to do it, but just listen as if in some way these words express the sentiment of the heart. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. May the simple capacity for love, for kindness, may it shine, nourish you. May the nourishment of kindness spread through your body. May the goodness of goodwill radiate through your body. And then without getting too complicated, may it be that your goodwill can be expressed today in ways that keep you intimate, connected to a relaxed inner place of well-being and peace. And may this goodwill, peaceful, relaxed goodwill, may it also find an expression in the world, in what you say and what you do, in small or big ways in which you contribute to the welfare and happiness of others. May this meditation practice we did today contribute to the happiness and well-being of the world. So this is the second talk on moha, usually translated as delusion. And today I'll talk a little bit more specifically what the Buddhist understanding of it is. So moha, M-O-H-A, is considered to be one of the three roots or three origins for everything that human beings do that's unwholesome, unhelpful, harmful. And in the tradition of early Buddhism, this moha is said to be present in every unethical act that someone does, every unwholesome act that someone does. And what unwholesome implies here is that it's unwholesome for the person who does it, and it's unhelpful or unwholesome for the person who might be the recipient of the act. So if we're doing something which is not healthy for ourselves, psychologically, heartfully, then there's some degree of delusion in that action, in that act of speech, or in that act of the body. And this word moha, delusion, is related then to a lot of other kind of cluster of concepts or mental activities that are related. And maybe the biggest one in Buddhism is ignorance. But ignorance that's not, you don't know something, you didn't, read enough books to learn things, but rather it's more like an ignoring. It's a little bit more volitional. It's choosing, almost like choosing not to know, or allowing the conditions to be present of delusion that interferes with knowing. It's related also to bewilderment, to confusion, and to living in the world not quite understanding what's happening and being bewildered. And it's also related to the idea of now I forgot what I was going to say. Of foolishness, and the kind of the kind of one of the most common ways in which the Buddha talks about someone who is mature spiritually. He talks about them as being wise, and those who are immature are foolish. And that divide is not the divide between saint and sinner, but rather the divide between the foolish and the wise. And some people might feel it's unfortunate to make this distinction, but the difference maybe between a sinner and a fool is sinners in the kind of way it's often used in the West. There's no redemption. There's no, the person. That's what a person is. But when you're a fool, it's possible to become wise. Foolishness is a temporary phenomena. And part of what we're doing is becoming wise, is overcoming delusion. Now the word delusion in English and in Moha and Pali implies that the mind is creating ideas that are not based on reality. So either we have projected some false ideas, some fantasies onto how things are, or or we just live in a world of fantasy that has no connection to the world around us. And so it's something the mind is doing, and in terms of thoughts, ideas, maybe some degree of feelings are involved in contributing to this world of delusion. And one of the, I think, very useful reference points for understanding this is the psychological word or projection. That we have ideas, we have bias, we have prejudice that belong to the world of ideas, sometimes very intimately connected to feelings and motivations. And these bias and prejudice that we have, preferences that we have, are projections that we put on top of our experience. And and there's a whole slew of these ways in which the mind is actively involved in obscuring what's actually happening in the moment, because it's created an idea of what's happening that interferes with the direct experience. And socially, this is very painful. When we see people through the stereotype, we see people through bias or prejudice, and sometimes we see ourselves through bias and prejudice. These ideas the mind forms, and then they're projected on others, on ourselves, on the world, obscuring our ability to see clearly. And this I understand why ignorance is not just not knowing, but is an ignoring that happens when we have these projections, when we're not allowing yourself to see deeply what's really going on. Now, in the tradition, there's a few things which are really central to the projections we have. One of them is that we project the hope of happiness onto things that don't really produce happiness. Like if we're trying to make ourselves happy, sometimes even safe, with unwholesome activities, with lying and stealing and cheating and or with being caught up in greed or ill will, um, then we think somehow our well-being is there to be found in engaging in unwholesome activity. And that's a kind of delusion, because unwholesome activity is always harming ourselves. And so to end that projection, then that allows us to see, actually, this is not happiness producing. I projected this hope for happiness into that activity, that it was going to do something for me. And so the same thing, the idea of projecting. And if we can, part of wisdom is to see the difference between what's wholesome and unwholesome, what's harmful and what's not harmful, and to become finely attuned to this, so we really kind of begin living in the world of what is beneficial, both for ourselves and for others. The other important idea of projection is the idea of we project a kind of permanence in things which are not permanent. And it might be a permanence just we have for the few minutes that it's there. We behave kind of unconsciously perhaps, as if this is forever. It's always going to be a hot day. It's always going to be, this way or that way. And I remember that there was a brief period of time when I was, I think, about 20, where I had a wonderful summer. And in the middle of this wonderful summer, I said to myself, I'll never be depressed again. This was a delusion of permanence that came back and kind of bit me, because that fall, right after that wonderful summer, I was more depressed than I'd ever been. And then I had the thought, I'm going to be depressed forever. That was the attitude I had. I didn't say those words, but the weight of it all, this weight of permanence. This is how it is, and it can be a projection, and to live under the weight of that projection, it causes a lot of suffering, and so it obscures that projection of permanence or constancy, obscures how shifting and changing our experience is. And there's a whole different way of being in the world when we see the inconstancy of it, the changing, shifting nature, and we find how to let go and find our peace with it. There's also the projection of identity. We all have, some kind of identity, gender or nationality or all kinds of things. But there's something about the act of projecting it on, even though maybe nominally it's accurate, but the act of projecting it and holding onto it and seeing through the lens of it can obscure, can create a sense of solid self, a permanent self, a constant kind of ideation of who we are and what we're caught up in. And and so much of what we think of myself, my identity, is a projection, or we're acting through a projection in relationship to it. And so that's a kind of delusion that obscures how, in some very profound way, we are always more dynamic, more complicated, more fluid, more more changeable, more than any projection we have on ourselves. That in fact that these projections obscure some deeper capacity for awareness and aliveness and freedom, which is always going to be here. So delusion as moha, as being an activity of the mind, it's not a passive ignorance, but it's the creation of ideas which are not accurate, and then projecting that onto the world, or wearing them as filters on our eyes. So when we see the world through those interpretations, through those ideas. And it's a wonderful thing to take those filters off. It's a wonderful thing to let go of those projections. The cost of living this world of projections, of delusion, is a lot of stress. There's a lot of tension that comes along with it. And to live without projections, without these mind creations that we see through, this assumptions, beliefs, prejudice, bias, allows the mind to be much more relaxed and at ease, and to come to that place of ease and peace that not only is it good, just peaceful and easeful for the mind itself, but it allows for to see with the absence of delusion, the absence of moha, and how to get to that and how to practice with delusion and come to the other side is the topic for tomorrow. So thank you, and you might, these next 24 hours, see if you can become a little bit more attuned or notice how ideas surface in the mind, and then those ideas become the means by which, or the filter through which, we then look and understand what's happening. And the key of this is to see it arise, see the beginning of something. Then it's easier to see it as a creation of the mind, and catch it as a kind of delusion. So thank you very much.